Hey everybody, Chris Stegall here with MK Partners, joined today by Jesse Penaloza. Hey Jesse, happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed, Chris. How's it going?
Pretty well, but we have some updates this week. We've sort of been watching the calendar and waiting for some news about the summer 23 release. We knew that it was due for, launch in May and June, and we knew we didn't have release notes yet. So we've been refreshing the page constantly, waiting, but we finally got some new dates on the calendar this week. So Salesforce has updated the timeline, and now we know that the pre-release org sign-up will begin next week on Friday the 13th. So Thursday the 13th, but by this time next week, you will be able to sign up. Also, we got dates for release notes, sandbox previews, release sites, and all of that fun stuff. So it's really going to accelerate our countdown to summer 23 going live. And I'm excited to be able to get in and start messing around with, the new features, upgrades, updates, and all that fun stuff.
Definitely. There's webinars, there's going to be some video streaming, some landing pages, all full of information that a lot of people are looking forward to from that idea exchange. I'm assuming some of the stuff is going to carry over and finally see those ideas come to life, actually going to be put into use or implemented in some way within one of the Salesforce products.
That's right. Yeah. And while we still don't know exactly what's going to be in the summer 23 release, we do have some educated guesses courtesy of the idea exchange. So if we, head to the ideas.salesforce.com and then navigate to the winners tab, we can at least see what was slated for a summer 23 release. But,
Hmm.
these are subject to change. Once those release notes hit, then we'll really have a good idea. So, uh, we can make our guesses for now. And then on the 26th, so just about 3 weeks from today, we should have uh, the answers for what's coming.
Yep. And that's about roughly 18 days as a little countdown I have going on here. 18 days, 10 hours, 53 minutes, and 26 seconds. So I figure,
Nice.
it's one of those excitement things you kind of just throw it in the back of your reminder so you kind of see it from time to time until it flourishes, it comes to life.
Yeah. And then let's see, is there anything on this timeline that you're really looking forward to?
Well, actually, as you know, it's this been probably my fourth iteration going through this within this ecosystem. And I guess some of the questions that have come up on my end to just recently come to realize is some of these milestones that kind of get put together with this calendar. Primarily on that first week I mentioned, next week starting, within getting that early access, would you be able to elaborate a little more about some of the benefits that you get for getting access to these releases?
Yeah. So I think you're talking about the pre-release org sign up and then the sandbox previews,
Yes,
presumably.
correct.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So uh, for pre-release, and this is the look at the spring 23 pre-release form sign up. But the pre-release orgs are basically developer orgs, super similar to what you use for doing your Trailhead modules. It's a free playground essentially of the Salesforce platform. And the pre-release orgs will go live with all of the features of the new release. So it's a chance for admins, devs, curious users to jump in after or while they peruse the release notes and play around with the new features, updates, and upgrades, and get a feel for how they work in practice. And then the sandbox previews is sort of essentially the same thing. If you have a sandbox instance that is a preview instance, then on certain dates, the sandbox will be upgraded to the new release. So right now, all of your sandboxes are on the spring 23 version of Salesforce because that was the last release. And then when the sandbox preview begins, preview versions of the sandbox will get updated to the summer 23 version. And that way, those admins, devs, whoever has access to the sandbox can get a feel for the new features um, in a sandbox, that has their data in it, so they can see how it's going to affect their org without having to wait until it hits production. And I think I had in one of these tabs here. Okay, so in terms of that sandbox preview, like I mentioned, you need to find out if you are on a preview version of the sandbox. And so there is a way to do that where you go and check your sandbox details in setup. You're looking at the release type column in your sandbox instance, and it's either going to be a preview or a non-preview instance. If it's a preview instance, you're all set. You don't have to do anything. As soon as the calendar hits May 5th, you're going to automatically be jumped onto the summer 23 version. If you're on a non-preview instance, you will need to make that change and get your sandbox refreshed prior to the cutoff date, which for summer 23 is going to be May 4th. So you have, the 3 weeks now leading up until that sandbox preview to update your sandbox to a preview instance if you'd like it, or make sure it's not a preview instance if that's something you're trying to avoid. And then, of course, if you don't have a sandbox version, that's when you'd want to sign up for the pre-release org. And then you'll get a dev environment that won't have your production data, but will give you, all the bells and whistles to play with.
I'm sensing these sandboxes have a common theme in mind, seeing that this release is being released sometime in May, in the sense of seeing that it's going to be May 4th. So I sense that these sandboxes, maybe their force is strong with them, seeing that May 4th will be May the force be with you. So
Yeah,
just too
that
much,
Star Wars
something
Day
to miss
cutoff
out.
for updating your sandbox.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of great information here. Seeing the fact that I'm assuming a lot of people, especially those that are expecting features that are coming up that might impact their org, will be able to take advantage of these early release days to actually tinker with the effects that these changes might come up, and kind of determine how they want to address these things weeks in advance. Um, Leading into that, looks like from the 5th to the 9th of May, after the release notes and the sandbox preview begins, looks like we're going to have a lot more content available to us, such as potentially some landing pages, some broadcasts, some panels where people are actually going through like a deep dive discussion. To me, this is a little bit new. I knew there was a lot of information online already, but I know they actually had broadcasts and actual panels of people. Kind of reminds me of Trailblazer DX, where they had these panels and they had actual product managers going through and assessing some of the feedback provided by some of the users or the community itself. Is that kind of what I'm feeling in these upcoming ones, where all this additional content is going to be released? Is it more scaled down, where it's going to be somewhat of that nature, but not too engaging, where you actually get to engage with the product managers themselves?
Yeah. It is usually like subject matter experts in each of the roles. So taking a look at this is the spring 23 release version. That's why the dates are all January. Um, but in the lead up to a new release, and that's why um, the way that they arrange this timeline is a little bit deceptive to me, because they always put the release weekends here and they show you the 3 release weekends, and then they put release readiness live afterwards. But if you look at the dates, Readiness Live goes up the same day as the first release weekend, and those live events run for a week. And that week really lives right here in between the first 2 release weekends. And that first release weekend is really the pilot weekend. It's super few orgs get the switch over, only ones that are in the pilot program. And it's really sort of a Salesforce testing the deployment, making sure that, they've tested it 100 times in sandboxes, but they don't want to roll it out to everybody all at once in case something breaks. So they do a real small pilot test in that first weekend. And that's also when release readiness goes live. So it really lives somewhere inside this column. So I would move this. Maybe I'll make the graphic the way I think the graphic should look, and then I'll replace it on the video here. But yeah, so this will go live, and then we typically see uh, developers, admins, product specific, so sales cloud, service cloud, field service, industry specific, so financial services, health cloud, etc. Will all have essentially their own webinars, and while there is a chance to sort of do some Q&A in those, so like you said, getting some time with the product leads. It's not pure Q&A, so it is sort of a structured presentation or structured walkthrough of some of the key features that are standing out to developers or admins or to the specific products, a chance to showcase some of those updates and spark conversation as opposed to like exist solely for the conversation to happen. But they are worth joining. They are recorded as well, so you can typically find them after the fact if you aren't able to attend at the specific date and time. But I, always try to grab the relevant ones and add them to my calendar so I can follow along. Because even all the reading the release notes and playing around in the sandboxes, there's only you're always going to miss stuff. And hearing from the experts what they're excited about and seeing how they're using the new features always gives us some good insight into what to expect both for ourselves in org and for our clients.
Yeah, you kind of answered my follow-up question there, which is it worth attending some of these what do you call webinars and more of walkthrough sessions? But knowing the fact that they are pre-recorded, you can check them out at a later time. If you do have the opportunity, it wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of get first dibs and get that information up front, or if you can schedule at any time, based whether or not that week is kind of busy for you, you can always go back and kind of check that information out, which is really helpful. This is actually something I didn't even know about, so it's definitely something I'll be looking forward to and checking out in this upcoming release.
Yeah. And they're not pre-recorded, but they are recorded when they're broadcast live. So then you can watch them
Gotcha.
after the fact. But they are like live if you have time to join. So it is a good, a chance to actually interact with the presenters as opposed to a YouTube video kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, well, there's definitely so much information going on here. I'm used to going into the release notes and kind of digging through there, and I feel like I'm just scavenging through paperwork left and right, like it's a big file cabinet. Like, oh, what do I see interesting? Kind of pull something up and kind of read about it, and then switch over to something else. But it looks like there's so many other avenues of media that they provide for any type of user that wants to engage in their own form or shape or way.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely is. And I sort of like, so these are the spring 23 release notes because the summer 23 release notes aren't up yet. But like, as you were saying, when the release notes drop, I sort of have to sacrifice an entire monitor to, I know it's going to be 100 tabs because I know I'm going to work my way down this sidebar and go, okay, like I always start with the what's new with Salesforce overall, looking at general enhancements typically. And then from there, you usually get some promptings into the sort of like you get a window into, okay, well, I think this is really going to affect these few products more than anything else, even though it's a general enhancement. And so then I'll typically jump either into those products and industries or the ones that I think are more relevant or more exciting to me. So as a marketer, I'm always checking out what's changing with Marketing Cloud and Marketing Cloud Account Engagement, formerly Pardot, Sales Cloud, and Platform, because those are sort of the big, what I consider the big meats of the Salesforce product suite. Um, I'm always checking Experience Cloud just because, in my head, it's still Salesforce communities, but that always seemed like such a fun piece of Salesforce to develop, like a public facing, let's build some websites. And so new features are always rolling out for that, just given changes in the world of the internet and Salesforce itself. So yeah, my typical workflow with the release notes and my May 5th or whatever the date is, April 26th, is a lot of clicking through here, expanding, and eventually just having 1,000 tabs open at the top as I desperately try to keep up. So I really rely also on the release module and the release readiness webinars for sure.
Yeah, and actually, we didn't even talk about that yet. But yes, I do like the fact that they summarize and provide either some clips or videos of some of the content they're going to be releasing in other avenues, or at least some snapshots of what those features look like
Yeah.
once the module goes up in between the release weekends. So that's something I have kind of kept an eye out on and always look forward to, because I try to complete it at least as I'm going along through this, iteration of this release. And it does help a lot, at least to summarize to some extent. But I've definitely found it useful from my perspective to kind of check out all the meetings, because there's different kind of information provided in each one, and some might go a little bit more in depth, which is, as you mentioned, those release notes sometimes tend to do that. And sometimes within the videos, they'll show a little bit more. Maybe they throw an extra screenshot that you didn't see somewhere else. So I guess they want you to kind of make sure they check you're going through all of them. That way, you can get as much information as you'd like about that
Yeah,
topic or subject.
definitely. And I did notice they updated this article again. So now it actually shows you an image of what it looks like when you're checking your sandbox preview level. So this shows this sample sandbox CS87 is a preview instance. It's currently on the Spring 23 release. So on May 5th, it'll automatically upgrade to Summer 23, but you could also, request that you stay on Spring 23 until June, and then it'll hold you over until the new release hits. And
Another famous Star Wars cliche, which is "Revenge of the Fifth of the Sith." Right on May 5th. Look like it's just too funny how this release is going to come out on those 2 days, which are very well known to the Star Wars community and to individuals. I've enjoyed Star Wars myself, so it's just kind of like a little thing. I'm not a super fan, but I am a fan. Okay, super
yeah,
fans like go really out there. I can't claim myself as that. I'm just a regular fan, so I enjoy those little
yeah.
things they do for us.
And then I think the only thing that we haven't really discussed smack dab in the middle of this is the release overview deck and the feature matrix. They are kind of almost two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of content. Where the overview deck is a very high level, visual presentation of some of the key new features and updates and what to expect, the kind of thing that you might take and then pare down a little bit or pull out the highlights that are relevant to your org and then share with your team or your executive suite, something like that, to really highlight some of the new functionality and get people thinking in Salesforce about how they want to harness some of that new capability in the new release. Whereas the feature matrix is a little bit, so this is the spring one here.
Oh,
um,
okay.
the feature matrix is really designed to show you at a glance what is going to affect your users the minute the switches are flipped. So, and I know this is probably impossible to read on this video, but it will list all of the features on the left-hand side, and then it uses a color code to tell you whether or not it's going to have an immediate impact on all users, no impact or not applicable anymore. Red is features that were, planned and then got the cut. And then blue is that they're going to be immediately available for admins and devs, but maybe not for users. So you can look through here. You can sort by product family to look straight at the products you're using. You could sort by color to see if there's any red flags, or in this case, green flags that are going to affect everybody that you need to plan for. And then it also has like sub products, who it affects with true or false. So users versus admins, whether it's set up available. And if you want a more robust look at how to use it, there is a tab at the bottom. It was hidden behind our faces here, but it's called How to Use. If you want a cheat sheet on how to use this spreadsheet without having to try to squint and read what I was writing. So walks you through looking at the release notes, looking at the matrix, and how to line everything up and decide which colors you should be focusing on or which products you should be focusing on based on your use case.
This is definitely a feature I'm going to be checking out. This is really nice. I do like me those spreadsheets. So that cohesive breakdown of everything, especially on the impact level from a user, is going to come in real handy.
Yeah. And so I think that's the news for this week, but it is big news getting all those dates and times out there. And I think it kind of, sets our release roadmap underway. I think I'm realizing now that we have a blog post, so I'll find it and I'll put it in the comments here or the description here. We have a blog post on how to find whether or not your sandbox is a preview instance, how to check your production org to figure out which of the release weekends you're going to be getting the update on. But maybe it's time to redo those, and maybe it's time to do a video on checking your sandbox instance, finding out which date your release weekend is. And then in addition, as this countdown continues, we will also have all of our regularly scheduled programming, our release highlights, blog posts, and videos where you and I run through the release notes, pick our favorite features, and do sort of a high level here's the top picks, and then a deep level dive onto ones that deserve a little bit more attention, all leading up to the big release weekends at the end of May, start of June. So looking forward to it.
Oh, definitely. Tell me about it. With this additional ammunition you're giving me here, I feel like I'll be even more prepared than ever. There's a lot more resources I have not tapped into. So this is definitely very insightful and useful for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure many others that will be watching. I'll kind of keep through this journey as we, traverse this new release all the way through its final uh, launch dates.
Yep. And since you have that countdown running on your computer, we'll always know exactly how far
Oh,
away we
yes,
are from the release. What's it
definitely.
say now?
We're at 18. Oh, okay. Let's figure out this new countdown here. Let me go and just give me a second, real quick here. We are at 18 days, 10 hours, 34 minutes, and 27 seconds.
All right. Good to know. I was going to say I could set an alarm on my phone, but it'll be fine. I'll be too excited if we lead up to it anyway. It'd be like setting an alarm for Christmas. I'll know when it's coming. Cool. Well, thank you, Jesse, for joining me today. Thank you, Salesforce, for updating the timeline. And like I said, make sure to like and subscribe here if you want to stay in the loop on Salesforce news, updates, and in this instance, specifically release highlights. And I'll throw links in the description here to the blog as well if you'd like to read those release highlight posts. If you prefer the written word more than the video media form. And we will continue our countdown as we approach summer 23. So thanks again, Jesse.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for everything. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day.